So, you know, we were like, we have to schedule. That's, you know,
everyone gets to silence their phones if they haven't yet.
I think I'm going to take one. Yeah, sure. Okay. Good morning. Well, I want to thank you all for coming out today as we talk about another successful ICAC operation that occurred this past weekend. This operation was called Operation Deja Vu, and it led to the arrest of 31 individuals who traveled to our location in an attempt to engage in sexual activity with minors. Today we will be talking about the operation. I will also be introducing some of our partners here today, as well as our ICAC Commander Dave Fratelli, who's going to go over the nature of the operation and the success we had this past weekend. I will also be bringing up Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Fallon Radigan to also explain what these individuals are charged with and what the possible consequences of their criminal activity will be. None of this would be successful, though, without the joint help of our partners in our ICAC unit. First and foremost, I have to personally thank the City of Newburgh Heights, the mayor and the chief there, who have been so welcome and gracious, Mayor Elkins and the chief as well, who have done every year assisted us in this effort. I also want to thank the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Investigation for their assistance, the U.S. Secret Service, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Ohio Attorney General's BCI unit, the Ohio Adult Parole Authority, the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Chris Violin and his staff gave us a great assistance this past weekend, as well as the Austintown Police Department, the Fremont Police Department, the Cleveland Division of Police, as well as the Solon Police Department. Again, this past weekend we had 31 individuals arrested. Those individuals ranged in age from 20 to 80 years of age. They came from 5 different counties in an attempt to engage in sexual activities with minors. Most drove cars, but others rode bikes. Some came on public transportation, and some walked. Let me bring up our ICAC Commander, Dave Fratelli, to get into the details of the operation. But again, I just want to stress to parents out there that it is critical that you monitor the activities of your children online, because there are predators out there every day seeking to exploit and abuse them. Dave?
Thank you, Prosecutor O'Malley. As the prosecutor mentioned, the 31 individuals that you see here behind me were all arrested after engaging in sexually explicit online conversations with what they believed were minor children. These individuals initiated these conversations through a number of popular social media applications that children are known to use. They then expressed an interest in engaging in sexually explicit activity with these children, a number of whom then sent or disseminated images of their genitals to what they believed were these minor children. These conversations occurred over various mobile devices that the offenders had on them. All of them were then made arrangements with these undercover officers to travel to a physical location here in Cuyahoga County, and they were all arrested promptly by our partners, Homeland Security Investigations, the Newburgh Heights Police Department, the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department, and our other task force affiliate agencies. All the offenders were promptly transported to the Cuyahoga County Jail. And the task force, in the process of this investigation, seized a number of different items of evidence, including 33 cell phones, 33 cell phones, 10 vehicles. We seized several drugs, bottles of champagne, personal lubricants, and a number of condoms, as well as suspected marijuana, drug paraphernalia, an HP tablet, and several electronic devices as well that are currently being examined by our ICAC forensic unit. I'd like to take a moment now to show a couple of videos from the arrests during the course of this 4-day operation. The first video that you're going to see here, Romero Golfin of Cleveland. You'll see Mr. Golfin here as he walks to the residence. This is the address that was provided to all of the offenders by our undercover officers. And as you'll see, in most cases, offenders really just walked up to the front door without any concern. Video number 2, this is defendant Michael Smith, also of Cleveland. You'll observe Mr. Smith's brazenness here as he walks right to the door of the house and enters without even knocking. We have a lot of offenders who feel very comfortable once they've been provided an address. They will then, just believing the child is home alone, enter the residence to attempt to engage in the activity that they express an interest in. And then finally, video 3, Jeremy Purpura of Middleburg Heights. Again, you will see as Mr. Purpura parks his vehicle, takes his time, and then enters the residence, or attempts to enter the residence. Thank you. I'd like to bring up now Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Fallon Radigan.
Thank you, Dave. Good morning, everyone. With regards to these individuals that were arrested on May 19th through May 22nd of 2021, they were 31 individuals that they did a variety of different crimes, and those crimes will be presented in different matters. With regards to these crimes, we know that the levels of felonies are between felonies of the 3rd degree and felonies of the 5th degree. The felonies of the 3rd degree hold a possible term of incarceration of up to 3 years in prison, and they would be classified as Tier 2 sex offenders, which means they would have to register for 25 years as a registered sex offender. With regards to those charges, we know that there are 31 individuals that will be charged with attempted unlawful sexual conduct with a minor. There will be 31 individuals that will be charged with importuning. There will be 31 individuals charged with possessing criminal tools. We have 4 individuals that will be charged with compelling prostitution, we have 2 individuals that will be charged with disseminating matter harmful to juveniles. And we have 1 individual that will be charged with carrying a concealed weapon, and 1 that will be charged with failure to comply. These charges will be presented to the Cuyahoga County Grand Jury, and if they are indicted, they would be arraigned, given a bond, and a lawyer would be given to them if they cannot afford one. Thank you. Chief?
Good morning, Chief John Majoy, Newburgh Heights Police Department. I want to begin by thanking Prosecutor O'Malley for his support of a program like this, and also recognizing Commander Fratteri and Investigator Rotilli for the time and effort that they put into this as well, along with all of their team members, because there's a lot of moving parts to an operation like this. I would say on the higher end, we're probably looking around 50 officers that are involved in this from start to finish, and it goes to show you the dedication. This is a really good example of federal, state, and local partners all working together for the greater good. And I can say this with the highest degree of confidence. Today, the world is a safer place because of what came from this operation over this past weekend. Last week in Florida, we saw an attempted kidnapping of an 11-year-old girl. Now, fortunately, it did have a successful outcome. With these cases here, we don't know what the outcome was going to be. As you saw, there were weapons confiscated. There were people coming in all different kinds of means. You don't know what these people's intentions really were. And therefore, I, again, can say the world is a safer place. Everybody involved in this operation deserves a life-saving award, in my opinion, because of the efforts that they put forward. Again, I want to thank Prosecutor O'Malley for his support of this. It's a tremendous operation. Again, Commander Fratteri and Investigator Rotilli, the men and women of the Newburgh Police Department, Lieutenant Marinella, Sergeant Halaska, and Mayor Elkins for his support for this endeavor. Again, this is a very big, successful operation. Again, thank you to our local, state, and federal partners for all that they did during this operation to make this a very good success. Thank you.
Hi, I am Chris Violin, Cuyahoga County Sheriff, and I don't want to reiterate too much what everybody else said, but I do want to this morning first thank County Executive Armin Budish, as well as Cuyahoga County Council and Council President Jones with regards to their continuous support of the Sheriff's Department and operations like this. I also want to say thank you to Prosecutor O'Malley and Commander Fratteri and his team at the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force for the tremendous work that they do. I want to make the point that the toll that this takes on the investigators because of what they have to see and participate in is so difficult for them to handle. So I want to keep them in our minds with great thanks. We're proud at the Sheriff's Department to have been able to support this task force since its inception through operations and investigations, including commissioning task force members as special deputies with the department. This has allowed us to be part of a network of over 375 law enforcement agencies who are dedicated to investigating and prosecuting internet crimes against children. Specifically in Operation Deja Vu this weekend, working through our Homeland Security Investigations Task Force partnership, our deputies assisted in the surveillance and apprehension roles, which resulted in the arrests of all of these suspects, each of who were eventually housed here at the Cuyahoga County Jail. These offenders, please remember, all had the intent to engage in sexual relations with minors. And we pledge as a Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department to continue to commit to protect our residents and our county citizens from crimes like this. And we again thank Prosecutor O'Malley and his task force for the opportunity to be of service and to assist. And Prosecutor O'Malley has some closing remarks.
Thank you, Sheriff Violin. Again, I want to personally thank to my staff who are members of the ICAC unit. You know, this couldn't have been as successful as it was without the hard work of that unit and the individuals and our chatters who sit on their computers hour after hours engaging in online conversations with these individuals. And again, it was a well-run machine. I stopped out there this weekend watched it firsthand, and you have not seen a more professional group of individuals and a more smoother operation be had. But if you look at the numbers, you know, in the last 4 years, there was 31 people arrested this past weekend, but in the last 4 years, we've had 108 arrestees in this operation, in these types of operations, which is frightening. And I have no doubt if these type of operations were engaged in weekly, there would be no doubt in my mind we would have arrests every weekend. So again, it is critical for parents to monitor the online activity of your children. If you see any improper dialogue being engaged by your children, report it to law enforcement. Know what apps your kids are using, know what sites they're visiting. It's critical that parents are aware. And again, children should not be giving away any personal information on the internet to strangers. So again, I just want to, again, go to our ICAC website. It's www.ohioicac.org. Parents become educated on the subject. And again, the only way we're going to prevent these type of crimes is that if everyone remains vigilant. And so I, again, urge parents, be involved, know what your children are up to. And at that point, be happy to take some questions.
What is the best way for parents to monitor? Is there like something you
Dave,
guys
you wanna
recommend?
Well, here's the reality, is children can engage in this type of activity on their cell phones. They can engage it on their tablet at home. They can engage in these conversations on the home computer. But you got to talk to your child. You have to be aware of what there's going on. You have to sit down and talk to your children one-on-one and explain to them the dangers that are out on the internet. And they have to become aware, and they have to understand that it is a very dangerous activity to be engaging with unknown strangers online. Dave, you want to add to that?
Yeah, you know, parents really need to educate themselves. Most parents don't understand the real dangers that exist out there on the internet. They give their children a device. It allows them to communicate with them, know where they are at any given time. But the reality is with what we see and the apps that these offenders are using, they're the same apps that children are using. And a lot of parents don't understand that. They also don't understand how powerful these devices can be. If you're a parent that has older technology, but you've given your child the latest and greatest smartphone, it's time to educate yourself about what these devices really do, what they're capable of communicating with or interacting with, and what kids can do with them.
Can you talk a little bit about why you named it Operation Deja Vu? I mean, Prosecutor O'Malley kind of said every 4 years you've had every single time.
Well, I think the numbers sum up. We could do this day in and day out as we do throughout the state in terms of the task force, and we see the same results every time. Despite our press, despite our education efforts and our outreach efforts, we're not seeing this type of activity abate. And that is a concern of the task force, as it is for all of the ICAC task forces around the country, as we are seeing a steady increase in the number of cyber tips. We are seeing a steady increase in the number of work that we have to do, and in a lot of cases, it's endless. We recognize that use of technology and use of the internet by both children and offenders is going to continue to rise throughout the years.
Yes.
Thank you. Would you say there was an uptick during the pandemic when a lot of people were on lockdown, quarantine?
So we saw a 40% increase in cyber tips from the National Center, pretty much on cue with the pandemic last year. In February of 2020, we were averaging anywhere from 700 to 800 cyber tips. In March and April of 2020, we went up to between 12 and 1,400 cyber tips. So you have a pandemic, you also have a lot of children going to school at home, you have offenders, adults who are now working from home, perfect storm in essence, and those numbers have continued to increase. We received over 10,300 cyber tips last year alone, which puts Ohio in the top 5 consistently with regards to the work that we have to do.
So how long did it take for us to get here for 31 arrests for this particular operation? Like from the first engaging, these offenders to now?
So it was really, when we say it was a 4-day operation, it was a 4-day operation. Most of the conversations that we have with offenders start that day or the day before. When we started these investigations 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it would take some time to talk to offenders. It would take some time for the offender to feel comfortable talking to the child, traveling to meet the child. We measure these investigations in hours now. In most cases, offenders are ready to meet. They've expressed what they want to do, and I believe in every case here, we initiated the conversation either that day or the day before we effected the arrest.
And did anybody not show up to the home that you guys were talking to?
We have a number of individuals that, may not have felt comfortable, and those may be, cases that we revisit, come back to, but you do have a number of people who recognize that this is wrong, who we may start a conversation with, and then they may say, that's illegal or you're too young. That's obviously the response that we're looking for.
Did the person who had the gun, did they bring it into the house, or was it in the?
I believe all four, we had 4 individuals with weapons. I believe all of them had them on them at the time of their arrest.
Which is a frightening fact.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, we don't know who we're dealing with until they knock on the front door. We do our best to identify these offenders ahead of time, but as the nature of the internet would suggest, there is a lot of anonymity. These offenders desire to be anonymous until they're comfortable coming to the front door, and so we're always cognizant of the safety concerns of our officers because we just don't know in some cases what these offenders are capable of.
Were all these people using the same app to get the kids, or these just multiple things that y'all combined into one big thing?
There are a number of different apps. Apps, as I said, that if your children are using, these offenders are using them as well. Offenders recognize where children are hanging out. They recognize that the internet and these apps are very powerful in terms of an offender's ability to connect with children anonymously and safely from their own home until they're comfortable leaving their home and attempting to meet these children.
I think it's critical that you realize, too, that this was a consolidated effort this past weekend, but our ICAC unit, on a day-to-day basis, continue to do the activities. And, it's just this weekend where we have a dozen chatters in a room where we're really drawing them, so it's a more efficient and a very thorough way to try to eliminate these predators from the different apps that they use and from the social media world. So this does happen on a day-to-day basis, just not this consolidated and not in this short a time.
And how many of these people are repeat offenders? All of them, or?
I don't think any of them were.
In this case, no, there were no registered offenders, no repeat
Yeah,
offenders.
in previous years, we've had individuals with previous convictions of improper sexual activity, but none this weekend, which means they're just out there amongst us. They're your neighbors, the people on the next block over. But again, this was people, a vast majority from Cuyahoga County, but within an easy drive, or in some cases, an easy walk of the target house. So again, they're everywhere. You just have to remain vigilant.
What are some of the mindsets of some of these people?
That's something we've wrestled with for years. Most of the offenders we deal with are willing to talk to us. They're willing to offer some sort of excuse or explanation as to why they arrived at the residence, but it's tough to figure out what's in their head at some times. Issues they're having in their lives, their rationale for wanting to do this. We wrestle with that quite often in terms of why an individual would attempt to engage in sexual activity with minor children.
Every time we do these stories, we always have some people who are just, oh, it was a trap, you lured them there. What is your response to that?
So we are essentially, we go out on the internet and we wait. We wait to be contacted by these individuals. We wait till these individuals initiate conversations with us. We recognize that a number of individuals will realize that this is wrong or illegal, and they will not have conversations with us. So we are only focusing our efforts on those individuals who not only reach out to us and initiate, but who also then suggest what they're interested in doing with these children. We do not escalate the conversations. We do not initiate anything that has to do with the criminal aspects of these cases. And if an offender says, I'm not interested or that's illegal, they go on their way. We focus our efforts on those individuals who, once they find out the age of the child, continue to escalate and initiate conversations with us, and then they're the ones that suggest the meeting and what they want to do at that meeting.
How old did the agents say that they were to the individuals?
I'm not gonna discuss that. They were all of our undercover officers pose as children under the age of 16.
Anything further? Thank you for coming out. Have a good day.